and welcome to your favorite bookish podcast, Fully Booked and Caffeinated. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kelsey.
Today's episode is about the viral serial killer romance novel. Yes, I did just say that. Butcher and the Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. Buckle in tight, because this book will definitely take you on some form of ride. What are you drinking? What are you drinking to talk about this episode?
Well, no amount of coffee would be able to do this book justice. I will tell you about a coffee I had this past weekend. So I went to Le Grand Coffee House in Woodbridge. Everyone, at least in Central Jersey, knows Eric LeGrand. He's a Rutgers football player. He was injured while playing for Rutgers, completely paralyzed. And since then, he's regained some feeling. Now he's an entrepreneur. He's just like this beacon of hope and light, and like basically this like mascot of Central Jersey. And so during the pandemic, he opened a coffee shop called Le Grand Coffee Shop. It's in Woodbridge. It's super cute. And not only is it an adorable small business to support, but the coffee was actually bomb as fuck. I got a cinnamon bun iced latte.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
It was so good. And it wasn't just like a latte with cinnamon bun syrup. It had cinnamon cold foam. It had like caramel swirl on the top with cinnamon sugar dusted. I was like, okay,
it's a fancy drink.
Yeah, I was living. It was wonderful. And it was also like disgusting outside. So it really brightened up my day.
Yeah, Saturday was a disaster.
Yeah. So anyway, if you are local, go and check out the coffee shop and support him, because it's a good cause to support.
And I will never say no to coffee. So.
It's true, especially good coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst when you go to you're like, oh, what a cute little like mom and pop coffee shop that I want to support. And then the coffee is $8 and it's not even good. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't regret buying this, but I am disappointed. Anyway, so what are you drinking?
I am having a mango cart beer because I needed some kind of strong drink to discuss this book.
I don't blame you. Listen, this is very different from our usual. So we're going to do our best.
Yeah. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Yes. This book, Brynne Weaver is not a super popular author as of yet. She is and will be now, because this book has just taken off. It was the book of the month. We talked about that. She is super viral. Everybody loves this book. Everyone's talking about it. Even if you don't like it, they're talking about it. So it's kind of like the equivalent of like E.L. James with 50 Shades of Grey, Stephanie Meyer with Twilight. Like these books just like come out and then all of a sudden these authors just blow up.
Are you insinuating that just like those books, perhaps this book is not as good as everyone thinks it is? We'll leave that for the ratings. Never mind.
So there wasn't a crazy amount of information about her on the interwebs quite yet, but I actually just pulled something from like a little blurb she had on her website, because it pretty much describes everything. So writing has always been a hobby for her. Even as a young child, she loved typing out stories on her grandmother's typewriter, which I love that. I love a cute little typewriter. She wrote award-winning poetry and essays and dabbled in various forms of fiction over the years. Then in 2019, she committed to publishing more of her works. And basically, she aspires to write female-focused stories about complex, resilient, imperfect characters who struggle with anger, trauma, fear, courage, and love.
Okay. All of that tracks except it being a female-focused. I felt like it was pretty evenly distributed.
Yeah, I can see that as well. So, I am actually going to read the book summary from the book jacket, because I actually forgot to put it in my notes. So anyways, first this is a little blurb. It says, the viral friends to lovers dark romantic comedy full of murder, chaos, and sizzling chemistry. Every serial killer needs a friend. Every game must have a winner. When a chance encounter sparks an unlikely bond between rival murderers, Salone and Rowan, they find something elusive, the friendship of two like-minded, pitch-black souls who just happen to enjoy killing other serial killers. From small town West Virginia to upscale California, and from downtown Boston to rural Texas, the two hunters collide in an annual game of blood and suffering, one that pits them against the most dangerous monsters in the country. But as their friendship develops into something more, the restless ghosts left in their wake are only a few steps behind, ready to claim more than just their newfound love. Can Rowan and Salone dig themselves out of a game of graves, or have they finally met their match?
Wow. I don't have anything to say.
Okay. So
It's
anyways.
new for me.
So before we even begin, I'm going to read you the interesting list of content and trigger warnings, which I think it's good that when authors do this, though, because when it comes to, I have read a few dark romance novels, and some of it can get pretty dark. I will say that this is not the darkest one that I've read, so if that says anything, but still there are obviously a lot of things that happen in this book that it's good to have some form of forewarning without being spoiled.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Eyeballs and eye sockets, amateur surgery, skin ornaments, chainsaws, axes, knives, scalpels, a lot of sharp objects, accidental cannibalism, not so accidental cannibalism, questionable use of a mummified corpse, lobotomized manservant, ill-advised use of kitchen implements, I'm sorry about the cookies and cream ice cream, I'm not really, detailed sex scenes which include, but are not limited to, cock-warming, rough sex, praise kink, anal, adult toys, choking, spitting, dom-sub interactions, and genital piercings, references to parental neglect and child abuse, parental loss, but not depicted, references to child sexual assault, not in detail. It's a book about serial killers, so there's some generally messed up murder and chaos.
I actually love this because, like you said, it is a good thing for authors to put this in. And I like that she kind of made it a funny thing.
Yeah.
And all of that really is in there. I
It
didn't
really
read
is.
this again after reading the book. And now that you just said, I'm like,
I know. And then I also like, when authors do on that first page, like, oh, this book is for my mom, or they put like a fun
a
quote
dedication
or something. Hers, yes, thank you, dedication. Hers is, for those of you who read the trigger warnings and said, accidental cannibalism, count me in. This one's for you.
Absolutely love that. And like, this is your literally the first 2 pages of the book. Like, you haven't even started the book yet. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to like this.
Yes.
So I was going into it and I was like, this seems like my kind of fucked up humor.
Yeah, I definitely think that she is a good comedic author. Like, the comedy really shines through in this. So anyways, the book starts with Salone finding herself locked in a cage for 3 days after killing Albert, otherwise known as the Beast of the Bayou. And she thinks that maggots are little orzo pastas. She is saved by Rowan, who is known as the Boston Butcher in the serial killer universe, and Salone is known as the Orb Weaver. They are both serial killers who kill other serial killers, which, frankly, I love this trope just in general. I loved Dexter when that was on TV.
Yes.
So this theme I really liked. I don't think the book goes into too much detail about it. I wish there was like a little bit more detail when it came to that kind of stuff, but I like the concept. I like the idea of a serial killer vigilante going after other serial killers who are doing dirtier things or nastier things.
Yeah, I completely agree. The one thing that they kind of glazed over is that Rowan doesn't just hunt other serial killers, he also kills like drug dealers and stuff.
Yeah.
So
when he needs like a pick-me-up, he's like, I'm just gonna go find some nasty person and flick him off the earth.
Whereas like Sloane specifically targets certain serial killers, like really depraved. I mean, not all serial killers are, but you know what I mean, like very depraved, especially ones who take advantage of like women or children.
Yeah. Both their backstories are pretty... Well, Salone's is brutal. Hers has a lot of like the sexual assault, and then her best friend, she kind of has I wouldn't even call it necessarily like a hero complex, but she wants to like also they were both put in situations that were not okay for them. And so now she just wants to save her best friend. And I think, she, like you said, she just wants to save other women and get rid of these men that are, you know, sexually assaulting other women, doing gross things. And then Rowan's was basically, he was abused by his father, which I'll get to that. I do discuss that. And then Rowan gives Salone her nickname Blackbird as they leave. And basically throughout the book, he mainly calls her Blackbird. It's like really rare for her to call her Salone. So they're at a diner and they're just bragging about the kills they've done. And they're just in awe of each other. Like, Salone says, "Oh, I did this." And Rowan's like, "I love that you did that. How did you do it?" And Rowan's like, "I did this." And Salone's just like, they're just literally shining each other. They're just like, "Look at what I've done. Look at all these cool things that I've done." Mm-hmm. So, you know. And then Rowan proposes a friendly competition in order to decide who can take on a serial killer based in the national parks of Oregon and Washington. They just dubbed him the West Coast Killer. There wasn't any fun name with that. But also, I feel like this was never touched on again. I don't know if you noticed that.
I was just going to say, did I miss something?
Yeah, this was the whole basis of the game, but then it really wasn't touched on again.
And there was also no... Oh, no, there was a timeline, because wasn't it like the best 3 out of 5 or something?
Yes, best 3 out of 5. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think that, and he was being selfish when he planned this, but Rowan is just instantly enamored by Salone. This is like love at first sight for him, realistically. Mm-hmm. He's obsessed with her art when she's killing these people, because she leaves like this whole, which I guess like, in a way, kind of also reminds me of Dexter, because I feel like Dexter, and there were some scenes when he would do, like, I just think of, like, blood splatter. You know what I mean? That's not what she does. She does more, what is it? She uses, like, silk,
she uses
right?
Fishing line, like, silk line, and does, like...
Yeah, art. She does art.
Web. Yeah.
So he's just in love already. And then it just goes into a year passes. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're just jumping into a year. So we have the beginning, and now it's a year later. Mm-hmm. And Rowan's brother, Lachlan, is the mediator of sorts in their little competition. He picks a serial killer that they have to go after. And so the competition starts in West Virginia. They're staying at an inn that is run by a man named Francis, who also has a cat. And what's the cat's name? Is it Winston? I can't remember the
Something like that.
I love the cat. The cat's great. Put a cat in a story, I love it. And here comes the first, I have to say though, and knowing that this was going to be like a spicy book, I was there wasn't as much spice as I thought there was going to be. Like, don't get me wrong, when we get to the spicy scenes, they're spicy, but typically there'll be like multiple scenes throughout the book. Like, there'll be a few chapters and there'll be like a sex scene and then chapters. There was just this one in the beginning, and then there wasn't any more until like the very end of the book. So there was like a big range. So basically, they're staying at the inn. Rowan's room is next to Salone's, and he hears some vibrations going on. And he hears Salone. She's having a grand old time by herself. Self-love, good for her. Mm-hmm. And then Rowan realizes that someone is watching her. So
Besides himself.
So Rowan just turns into the Hulk, and he just like breaks through the wall. And Salone is like, what the fuck? And then Salone had already figured it out, but Francis was the one that was watching her, and she had like went on like a date with him prior to this, which he seemed like a weirdo, so
yeah,
good on ya. But he was the one that was watching Salone, and this is the man that Lachlan had sent them after for their first competition, because he's been killing people. I guess he was like a serial killer, but also like there was no depth to his backstory either. It was just kind of like glossed over. Like he was killing women that were passing through town, it seemed like. Is that the vibe that you got?
Yeah, like just people who were staying at the hotel.
Yeah, like and then clearly he was like a voyeur, like he wanted to watch women. Yes. It was one of those things where he was being a creep and disgusting, and then I guess that led to him killing women. I don't know. There was really there wasn't enough information about it.
And they didn't even say if it was not that I remember that it was specifically just women. It was also like people going through that were like backpacking and stuff. Just people that wouldn't be missed because they were out, like they could have gotten lost on a mountain or something.
Yeah. So even though Salone technically figured out that Francis was the serial killer that they were after, Rowan just turns into Macho Man and becomes the ever-protective man of Salone and just basically tells Salone to just back up. I got this. And he just takes off after this guy. He feels so protective of Salone already. Again, this is only their second time hanging out. So they met once. This is now the second time. And he just feels that he just has to protect. And he's also just pissed that Francis was watching her. And typically this line gets me, one of my favorite, but in this, because there wasn't enough, I feel like there wasn't enough juice yet between Salone and Rowan, so he says, like, she's mine, and, like, well, he didn't say it like that, he's like, she's mine, or whatever, and so, like, and then he kills him, but, normally, typically, that would be a soon moment for me, but I felt like it was so soon in the book for me. I would have liked a little bit more depth in their relationship.
But also, it's really only one-sided up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, Rowan saying that is how he feels. But you're like, does Sloane even reciprocate these feelings? Like, she hasn't really expressed that yet in her chapters. So I agree. It was kind of early. And then you said that he just killed this man, but...
Not to go in, like, too much detail, because I don't want to be, like, gross, but he pulverized his face.
That's exactly the word I was going to use.
There you go.
Pulverized this man.
Yeah. Yes. And I will say the book is very graphic, and it does go into detail for a lot of these things, which took me out of it at some points, because I know this is probably up your alley with your horror novels, but I was like, it's queasy girl over here. Especially the ones...
Those are my favorite parts.
Oh, God. The very last one, which we'll get to in the kitchen. Oh, that got me. Could not handle that one at all. Anyways, so basically then I don't really know what happens. I try to like understand, and I even like kind of like reread it. Rowan just kind of goes into like a manic state, and then he's just like, I don't know. I couldn't get a full grasp on the situation, but he was like convinced that Salone was going to see him in this state and just leave and like escape him, and he like says her name. He's like Salone or whatever, and she does end up coming back to him, but you find out that she was going to just like dip because she saw how, I don't want to call him crazy because that's not really the right word for it, but
he was out of control.
Yes, thank you. Like he lost all sense of control completely when he killed Francis.
And she is such, and she says this later in the book too, she, especially when she's killing, is such a control person.
Yeah.
Like everything is meticulous and planned out. And he was, like you said, completely in a manic state. Like he wasn't planning on beating that man to death.
No,
and
that was the thing. Like I think he's probably also meticulous in a sense, and because his emotions took over and he felt so protective and Salone in that moment, he just completely lost control.
Yeah, and he's like, her seeing that, it's one thing to hear about it, it's another thing to see
to
it.
Witness it.
Yeah, so I get why he was a little nervous, and I get why she was a little apprehensive.
Salone keeps looking at this scar that he has on his lip, and Rowan admits that it's from his father, and that his father was basically an abusive POS, and him and Lachlan actually ended up killing him. So they just killed their father, and
we don't get too many details.
We don't.
Just that.
A lot of, I will admit in this book, a lot of just glazing over things. It happens. And then there's no rhyme or reason as to why it happened.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of like introduced things that aren't explained, but I wonder if it's because this is being set up as a trilogy. So if, especially especially Lachlan's job and his past, I wonder if they'll explore that more. Because...
Oh my God, he's book 2. I can't wait.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they kind of do like filler in between the competition. So Salone's BFF Lark, who I previously mentioned, she convinces Salone that she needs to go to Boston to see Rowan. And for all that Salone is this empowered woman, when it comes to Rowan, she becomes very like shy and like sheepish, which kind of surprised me a bit. I wasn't expecting that. I was, the way that she's written, she's this badass woman, but when it comes to a man, she kind of reverts back into herself, which it's not terrible. There were some good moments about it, but she definitely is starting to realize that she has some form of feelings for Rowan, but she's also feels like in her life people leave her and everything, so she's too afraid to like get close to anybody. And so
she like can't read a room because she truly doesn't know if Rowan likes her.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's brought up multiple times, and I'm like, girl.
I'm like, really?
Yeah, because she ends up at his restaurant and she draws a raven on a piece of paper, and then she's eating the food and she really likes it, but then she chickens out of seeing him, and because then his brother enters the restaurant, and Salome is all of a sudden like, this is a bad idea. She's like, I gotta go. And so she gets up to leave, and I will admit, I did like this when Rowan realizes she was there, and he is like, stop, like, don't go, don't take one more step. And they just have this steamy, tension-filled look and moment in time. I did appreciate that. That was nice. But clearly, still doesn't know. But still, she's like, do you like me? Check yes or no, because I don't know.
Yeah, she's like, I'm still unsure, even though he's screaming at everyone who dares, like, breathe.
And also, like, Meg, how dare you not tell me that she walked into this restaurant? Because I guess Rowan told his staff or after meeting Sloane, if this woman, which how does she even know what she looks like, by the way? But whatever. If this woman ever enters this restaurant, you need to tell me immediately. And Meg got distracted and didn't tell Rowan, so.
And I'm sorry, but Sloane got on an airplane, flew all the way to Boston from North Carolina, and then she was just like, actually, I ate my entire meal, and I almost made it, but I'm gonna leave. I'm just gonna jet right out of here. Like, what?
Yeah. And then Rowan has food delivered to Salome's house. He basically like hires this kid on a bike and is like, hey, every day for the next week I will pay you $50 to bring this food, this bag to this woman's door, that I'll pay you $50 upon delivery. And this kid's like, cool, I'm gonna make an easy $1,000 this week. I will absolutely do this. My bike needs new rims. I don't know. And so Rowan,
he was buying an Xbox.
Is that what he said? Because I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he told Rowan that he was buying an Xbox, and Rowan was like, here's an extra $200.
Oh, I do. Oh, Rowan. Rowan has a little soft spot, doesn't he? So
this is creepy. Okay, I was getting Joe from You vibes, where he's
you didn't like
hiding
this?
behind the tree. No, I loved the cooking and talking to her on the phone through it. I didn't love the watching her from across the street through the window of her apartment.
Rowan turned Joe Goldberg. I get it. I understand it. But I really did like that. And that was kind of a cute way for them to bond and get to know each other. That wasn't just about killing. They actually talked about like their lives. And I thought that was, I put adorable, because it was. Like, this was actually like a cute moment.
And he shared his other passion with her, which is cooking. And then I thought it was really cute when he finally stopped. He did it on purpose, because he's like, oh, gotta leave her wanting more, even though I'm really laying it 99% out there. And she like stuck her head out that last day, was like looking for the delivery guy. She's like, he should be here right about now. But of course he wasn't. Yeah. And then Rowan's like, haha, mission accomplished. I'm gonna go back to Boston now. Yeah. I thought that was cute.
So their next mark is Thorsten, who likes to eat people. Gross. And he invites them over for dinner. Now, at this dinner, it becomes clear to Salome that Rowan did no research on this dude, and he's drinking the wine that is clearly drugged. And then he eats some human accidentally, which I now see where the accidental cannibalism came in the trigger warnings.
Because, to be fair, even Sloane didn't know he was a cannibal until she got there. And then she just started putting two and two together.
Yeah, so yeah, that happened. This was also one of those moments where I pulled me out a little bit, because I have my limits. This is a limit, but I digress. But
I'm glad that you're learning your boundaries, and your boundary is cannibalism. And you know what? That is okay. That is okay.
I know. So during his drunken haze, because he's just drunk off drugs and human. He admits to Salone that she is the most beautiful woman and that he has not slept with anyone because since he met her, because he's basically holding out for her. So my dude is just now all of a sudden celibate. He's like, I have a chastity belt, you hold the key. Nobody else can get in here. It's all yours. And then he falls face first into his human salad. So that's what happens.
Don't call it a human salad.
It's what it was.
It was. You're right.
So she's murdering Thorsten. So this is kind of almost, it's like an equivalent to Rowan with Francis, just not as out of control. But during this murder, she admits that she did experience some form of abuse while in art school and that her friend Lark was also abused. And like I had said, this is what made, well, you had said as well, this is basically what made Salone who she is today. This is what started her, being a vigilante. Killing disgusting people. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I was surprised that she said this in front of Rowan.
Yeah, it was kind of almost, she was realistically giving a piece of herself to him.
Definitely.
And she's doing it slowly, because whereas I feel like Rowan is basically like, here's all my trauma and my baggage, please take it. Salone's kind of, like I said before, she's very unsure if she can trust him or not fully, I think, and if she truly wants to let somebody in, because it seems like Lark is the only person that she truly, fully allows in her life, so now she has to let somebody else in, and it's obviously very difficult for her.
Yeah. And she has this whole sense of being well, they both do, of being unlovable because of who they are and because of their obsession with killing people, whether it's for justice in a vigilante way or not. Mm-hmm. So she definitely struggles with that more than he does.
Yeah. She then convinces Rowan to take David, the Thorsten's lobotomized servant, back to Boston to work as a dishwasher in his restaurants, which, again, like, I love Salone for this, because she clearly, she does terrible things to terrible people, but then when she sees somebody that's in need, she's like, let me take you under my wing and love you forever. But in return...
You're going to skip over it, Heather?
No. In return, Rowan gets something from her, but we don't know what it is yet that he gets from her. So then she admits, as she leaves, that she had lied to Rowan about going to Boston for a meeting, because that was what she had originally told him why she was in Boston. So she admits that there was no meeting, that she had actually gone to Boston to see him. And so now Rowan is like, oh, maybe she likes me, check yes or no. So it's basically like they're passing notes back and forth to each other, giving little tidbits. But then there is the ice cream scene. And this is why I need to know if you watched Saltburn yet.
No.
Okay.
But I know what you're going to say.
If you know, you know, is all I'm going to say. Because this ice cream scene was reminiscent of Saltburn. Mm-hmm. So basically, the ice cream was semen, is what I was trying to say. The ice cream was semen, so that was fun times for me to read. Anyways.
I just appreciated that this Hannibal Lecter type man actually made labels of all the ingredients, because that's really good, because if you have an allergy, you should know about the ice cream that you're about to have. So yeah, I appreciated that he had a detailed label.
It was actually psychotic.
It's important.
It's anyways.
And this is the second, well, no, there's a couple other gory things, like the very beginning where she's trapped and then she's like killing some other guy. There's other things, but this is like the second big kill scene, and it's a lot. It's definitely a shock value.
I feel like they just all,
but it's not quick.
Each one just gets progressively more shock value.
Yeah. I don't know. This one was a lot.
Yeah. 8 months pass.
They're all different.
Yeah, they all are. So 8 months pass. Again, we have like a big break, and then they meet up again. Now we're kind of in that trope of Salone is getting in her own head. She's fighting her demons that make her feel like she's not good enough for Rowan. She says to Lark, I don't know if what I have to offer compares to all that. Meaning Rowan's life in Boston, he has all these friends, he has all these family, he has this successful business. So he's already this person of warmth and wealth, and Salone is a loner, basically. So she doesn't feel like she fits into that lifestyle, so she doesn't feel like she's good enough for Rowan.
I get that, because it's like she thinks that her lifestyle has alienated her from other people, But then she sees someone else who has the same lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and he has so many friends, and he has so many close relationships, and he has so many people that are important to him. Like you said, a thriving business. Like, it's just two completely different sides of the coin. So she's like, okay, what's different about me? Or in her mind, what's wrong with me that I can't have that?
Yes. She ends up going to Boston to attend a gala with Rowan, and this was the win that he claimed, because he's like, oh, I gotta win. For taking David, this is my return. You have to come to a gala with me in Boston. And he had offered a night of real fun. Now, Sloane thought by real fun, he meant them actually spending time together, because they've established that they have a friendship now. Like, they're like each other's best friend. And so she was like, okay, this is just going to be more a bonding moment for us. No killing whatsoever. It's just us. And then she finds out that Rowan had this whole plan on murdering a serial killer together in Boston, and that he thought it would be a move up in their relationship. And Sloane is completely taken aback by this. She just, again, feels like, oh, he only wants me around because I'm a serial killer like him. And there's no depth to this relationship. It's just kind of like surface level. And so she gets upset, and she admits to Rowan that she thought that they were kind of more than that, that there was going to be more. And Rowan has like this moment, like an epiphany, and he goes to kiss her, and then his phone rings.
Uh-huh.
I put 5 exclamation points after he's about to kiss her, because it's that moment, it's happening, and then of course his phone rings, and his restaurant has like an emergency, so he has to leave. And it's just like she finally admits to Rowan that she's, she has feelings for him, but like isn't fully saying it. And he realizes that, and he's like, oh my god, like she thinks that I only want to kill people with her, but like I've been in love with her since day one. And then they're about to make it happen, and interruption. Because what is a romance novel without unwanted interruption? So then they end up in Texas for round 3, and this is Harvey Mead, who is basically, I envisioned him as like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it was like a horror house maniac is basically what he is. This was actually creep me out. This successfully creeped me out when they were like at the house and walking through it. I was like, I am in a horror film. I am currently in a horror film. And Sloane is unfortunately caught by Harvey. He dislocates her shoulder, and then she's thrown into a cellar where some chick is just down there with her. Like, this guy just was saving her for later.
She's like,
yeah, I know.
Hello?
But then like he didn't check her for her phone. Like, what the fuck?
She just sends off a text.
I was like, he just threw this girl into a cellar with herself. I was like, this is, I can't even, like, I have no words, because that's such a serial killer slip up that would probably never actually happen.
And he didn't know that she's a serial killer hunting serial killers. So how did he know that she wasn't going to call the police?
I know what I'm saying. I'm like, even like if she was just, a victim that was caught, she's still
exactly.
It doesn't mean that she's not going to call anybody. Anyways, so now that he saved her from the cellar, they finally share their first kiss, because Rowan thought she was gonna die, and she almost did. Her shoulder is not where it's supposed to be, and there's just a lot happening. And the girl in the cellar is like, hey, what about me? Can I?
Rowan almost leaves her there.
I know. Rowan's like, I'm about to go. And then she's like, but wait, like, stay and help me out. But I did think it was funny when, like, I think her name was Rose. That's just what's coming to me right now. I feel like her name was Rose. Do you know the Geico commercial that they do around Halloween, where they show, like, it is kind of like a horror house, and they're like running. They're like, no, let's go to the barn with the chainsaw. No, let's go to the running car. This is what I envisioned when she's running through the field. I'm just like, this girl is like the Geico commercial.
So true. Let's hide behind this wall of chainsaws.
This is the Geico commercial. Oh my god.
Yeah. She did not have survival instincts at all.
No, but lo and behold, in the barn was where Rowan and Sloane was, and so they catch Harvey Rowan is bludgeoning him again, but Salone is like, but don't kill him because I have a gift for him. And this sent me. This sent me. So when Salone first went into Harvey's house, we have a Psycho situation. That was Psycho, right? Is it
Yes.
Psycho?
Yes. It's
his
Psycho.
mom.
It's a Norman Bates, yes.
Yes, his mom's corpse is just chilling in front of the TV or something. I don't know. So then she takes the mummified corpse of his dead mother and brings it into the barn. Basically scares him to death. Like, they couldn't even kill him because he ended up killing himself because she scared him, and she was like, how could you do this? How could you become like this? And it was, oh my God.
Talking in the mom's fake voice while holding the mom's skeleton and, like, making it crawl up Harvey's body.
Oh my God. I loved it. That was my favorite one. I
much prefer this to the cannibal dinner party.
I agree. This one was enjoyable.
Because Sloane's banter from the beginning, her banter with Rowan is not as endearing. Like, she mostly just says, like, oh my God, you're the worst, and like, fuck off, pretty boy. Like, she's just not as endearing as he is. Like, his insults have some, like, quip to them. Yes. You know what I mean? So it's in these moments, especially when she's making jokes about the cannibalism and when she's doing this, that I'm like, wow, Sloane is really funny.
Yeah.
But only when she's killing people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know. So they go to Rowan's brother's house, who Kelsey looked it up before the episode. It's apparently pronounced Finn. Don't know if that's correct or not, but we're going to go with it. To get her fixed up because he's a doctor. And on the ride, Rowan admits that after he killed his father, he didn't feel guilt, but exhilaration, and he knew there would always be a next one. So he admits to Salone that, he felt no remorse for killing his father, and then he became basically Dexter. He was like, I needed to kill again. And I don't think she cared, realistically. I don't think there was any, like, negative reaction to this.
I think it's different from her story because it obviously wasn't her father, but it's very similar in the way that she didn't feel any remorse either. Like, she was like, okay, he deserved it. What's next?
Yeah. And then we finally get the scene that everyone's been waiting for. First, this quote. It's a good one. You're all the best things to me, Salone, no matter how many bruises are in your heart or on your skin. Because Salone does not look great. Salone has been through it. She's roadkill, more or less. And Rowan admits that he's been pining for Salone for 4 years. And I'm gonna, like, get hot talking about this because this is, like, ridiculous. So apparently Salone has a lot of piercings, which threw me off when I found out about them because I was not expecting that. And I don't think you were either. So she has basically anything that could be pierced that's sexual is pierced. She has a lot of genital piercings, which, good on her. I also just wonder how bad that hurt and what it really does for you. That's
apparently a lot.
I know.
Apparently a lot.
I know. And so Rowan is extremely turned on by this. Like, he's quivering with anticipation after he, like, discovers this, and he, like, makes her get on the bed and just fully expose herself to him, which, who in your right mind, you just can't tell a woman to do that, but he's, like, very, like, you have to, or else. And she admits to Rowan that she hasn't slept with anyone since she met him because she knows she only wanted him. So here we are, 4 years later. These two could have been fucking since day one, basically. But we had the long game here, and this one. The long game. But I did appreciate that Salone's safe word was chainsaw. That was nice. That was a nice touch. That was a nice...
I did love that. And if they had started fucking 4 years ago, then we never would have gotten their first kiss in a creepy-ass barn while she got a boot print on her face, and there's someone coming after them with a chainsaw. Yeah. And, nothing says romance like being chased by a chainsaw.
And then we have 3 chapters of just pure filth. I'm not going to get into it, but all I will say is that Christina Aguilera Dirty is their theme song. Like, I was imagining that was playing in the background when they were having their fun times. Did you want to discuss anything in those 3 chapters? Was there anything that stuck out to you that you needed to talk about?
Well, there was a lot that stuck out to me. Nothing I need to talk about. Okay. Thank you. It was extensive.
And detailed.
And just the fact that there's a lot of screaming. They make a point to point out how noisy this is. And they are staying at his brother's house in the guest room. And they have to face his brother in the morning.
Well, Rowan could give zero fucks, by the way. He's like, I don't care.
When Finn said, I thought I said no ... sports. And Rowan said, we weren't playing sports, we were having sex. I died.
Yeah.
Rowan is just so funny with his brothers.
I know. I do love his relationship with his brothers. That was one part of the book that wasn't like a huge part, but really meant a lot to the story.
Because it felt kind of natural in the way that it wasn't such a huge part. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anything you wanted to discuss? Or
no. Well,
you're good?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Salone discovers that Rowan got the raven that she drew in the restaurant that one year tattooed on his body. So if that's not a declaration of love before or after admitting you're in love, I don't know what is. So they basically admit to each other finally that there's feelings. Salone ends up moving to Boston. Lark meets Rowan. Salone's heart is full. Rowan surprises her by naming his second restaurant Butcher and Blackbird. And Salone finally confesses she loves him. And they're just in the kitchen cooking. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, so this might not hit as well as I want it to. But this scene of them in the kitchen making food together where it gets kind of like sensual and then obviously very sexual, but it's before it gets super sexual, it's just very sensual. Did you ever see Simply Irresistible with Sarah Michelle Gellar?
No. And I'm shocked that I haven't.
And I'm pretty sure it's Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'm going to feel dumb if it wasn't Sarah Michelle Gellar, but oh, all right, then this isn't going to make sense. But to anybody listening to this that saw Simply Irresistible and knows what I'm talking about, I just hope you get it. Because as I was reading this scene in the book, I was like, this is Simply Irresistible. Is it Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Sarah Michelle Gellar and Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah, and this was a favorite of mine. I've watched this movie multiple times. It was terrible, but I watched it multiple times.
1999.
Yep, it had like magic food, but yeah. Okay, cool. So you don't get it, but I get it, and that's what matters.
It had magic food?
In the movie, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just skip over that. I hope someone gets this reference.
And if they don't, whatever, it's fine. It meant a lot to me, and that's all that matters. So after go ahead.
We just have to say the fact that Rowan is not scared of commitment.
No,
okay,
this boy is ready to dive in head first.
The tattoo, the restaurant, the moving in, like he is 1000% all in. And Sloane is like, do you think that he likes me?
I know.
Meanwhile, she's still the Blackbird just everywhere, and she's like, I think so. Lark, do you think that he likes me? And Lark is like, I think you're good. I think you're good.
Uh-huh. Well, that's basically what happens, because then they have like this tension-filled moment at home, and Salone just second guesses everything, more or less. And Rowan like feels bad because he knows that she's doing that, because he knows Salone is so in her head 99% of the time. And so he goes into work, and Salone is going to come meet him, and right before she arrives, Rowan is just meted at the temple with a gun. Like, hello. And then the man, who we don't know who it is yet, is holding the gun at Rowan, says that Salone needs to leave because she's arriving at the restaurant, or he will kill her and make Rowan watch. And so we have the third breakup act, which nobody likes. I don't know one person that likes this trope, but
I can't do it. I can't do it. Especially when they're this cruel.
I know.
Okay, this is like in Twilight when Bella is screaming at Charlie and she's like, this is why mom left you, and then she storms out. Or when you're watching Air Bud and he's yelling at the dog and he's like, no, stay, dog, I don't want you anymore. I can't do it, okay? No. I obviously have serious abandonment issues. Mm-hmm. This trope physically pains me.
Yeah. So he like breaks up with her bad, like says really mean about it. Things.
He's like, you're a psycho. Mm-hmm. No one could ever love you.
Yeah. Because, like,
Oh
he just
my
needs her to
God.
get out of the restaurant. But in doing so, he leaves breadcrumbs in the breakup, just hoping that Salome gets it. Like, just praying. And then eventually she does. And she has a hidden security camera in his kitchen that she installed that no one else knows about. And she checks the cameras. And the big reveal is that David, the lobotomized manservant, is holding Rowan hostage. What did you think about this?
I liked it happening because then we get a little revisit to our one of our favorite cannibals. But this guy pretended to be a lobotomized servant for like 2 years.
Yeah, I hated it.
That's too long of a long game.
This twist killed the story for me instantly, if I'm being completely transparent, because it was pointless. It made zero sense.
Mhm.
And he befriended Thorsten because he wanted to it wasn't lining up for me the way that I think the author was trying to make it line up, and I could have done without this scene completely. This entire thing we did not need at all.
It would have been so much better with just a random person or like a random killer doing this, because the same way that Rowan had to save Sloane from Harvey because like seeing her hurt was like killing him, it would be the same effect.
Yeah.
So I feel like I didn't really look at it as like, oh, they're trying to make it a thriller with this big reveal. I was just like, oh, that's kind of like lazy storytelling.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. And also like David admits that he has like a hard on for Salome. I don't know. It was just like, and then Salome is like pretending that she never liked Rowan. And I'm like, kids, you're not fooling anyone here. Like this is not like, it's just, I didn't like it. And that's that. And that's all I'll say about it, is I just didn't enjoy this at all. And then basically she kills David. It's, it happens, and they go to kill, and then they admit they love each other. They're back to normal, blah, blah, blah. It was just kind of like, I don't know. Honestly, I read this part and it just kind of took me out of the book. So
yeah, I could definitely see that, especially after hearing you say that. Like I definitely think it was a little bit of lazy storytelling.
Yeah. And then they end up joint killing the serial killer doctor that Rowan originally had planned for them to kill back at the gala. And then Rowan, being Rowan, does this all-out proposal to Salome, and this brought me back in. But, like, this was cute when he did kind of like, because throughout the book, the whole inside joke with them is that because Salone's signature move is she takes an eyeball out of the person's head, and that's like the whole eye gouging eyeball trigger warning. And so he always makes fun of her. He's like, oh, like you gouged it, like you didn't do a good job, like it was whatever. And so she's like, no, it's great. And then she goes up to the eye socket and there's like a little thingy in there. And then when she opens it, it's like this note, the napkin from when they first met, when they planned the game. And then Rowan takes it back real quick and he writes like, marry Salome Sutherland if you can. And he gets down on one knee and they get married.
I loved this.
Yeah.
It was an engagement ring shoved in a dead guy's eye socket.
Yep. It's on brand for them. For them.
And I loved that Rowan is so sure of himself and he plans out all this stuff. And then after it happens and Sloane's just like staring at him, he's like, wait, did I fuck this up? Because she's like, you proposed with a ring and an eye socket? And he's like, oh my God, now that you're saying it, like, it sounds really bad. And she's like, no, I love it. And she starts crying and she accepts. And I'm like, he's so funny because he's so confident. And then he's like, wait a minute, did I overstep my serial killer-ness? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was cute. I really liked the proposal. And then there's kind of like a preview to what the second book is going to be. There's this person watching them, and apparently Rowan killed his brother. And so now this person, who we don't know yet, has a vendetta against Rowan and is going to go after Lachlan. And the second book is Lachlan and Lark. And I'm very much excited for it. Because one of my favorite tropes is fake marriages out of convenience, and that's what the second book is going to be.
Is it really?
And I also love when the dude that's doing that, the main male character is like a broody billionaire kind of rough around the edges guy who could never fall in love. And then like
Hmm.
the peppy, cute, pretty girl is the one that like makes him fall in love. Like this, like the,
Yeah.
like the cinnamon roll ends up,
Yeah.
breaking him. So I'm actually very much looking forward to the
Well, I
second
like the
book.
way they set this up too.
Yeah.
Like obviously you know that there's something building between Lark and Lachlan and he's like
Hmm.
trying to fight it. And
Yeah. So
so I like how they introduce it.
yeah, so I'm actually very much looking forward to the second one, and it's called Leather and Lark because Lachlan's job is leathers. Hmm.
Hmm. Okay.
So, yes. So, what did you think about the writing style in this book? Did you find it easy to read, hard to read? Did it take you a long time to get into it?
Here's the thing. It's a mix because some of it I really liked. I really liked the humor. I really liked the banter and the back and
Hmm.
forth. And it was very creative, especially the different killings and even like her serial killer MO. All of that was like very cool and very creative. I got taken out of it with the sex scenes. I thought they dragged out a little too long for my liking.
Hmm.
And I really wasn't speeding through this the way that I thought I would. Like, I wasn't, like, it took me quite a few days to read it. And normally,
You
if I'm
finish a
super
book
into it,
in
yeah,
24 to
I'm like,
48 hours.
exactly. I'm like, oh, I gotta see how this ends. So
Hmm.
I noticed that I wasn't racing to pick up the book
Yeah.
after work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What did you think?
It took me a while to get into it. I When I started it, I was actually worried because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Not that I had any true opinion on what it was going to be, but I don't know. I wasn't liking the track that it was on, and then it changed and it went back on, and then I was actually very much into it, and then I got to the part that I hated, and it took me out of it. So it was kind of like a bumpy ride with my experience with
Hmm.
this book because it was definitely easy to read. I will say that it didn't make you think a lot, which is always kind of nice when you read a bunch of books or I listened to a lot of like deep books, so like reading something this not difficult to read was actually kind of nice because everything I'd reading was kind of heavy. So this was like,
Yeah.
not that this book's not heavy, it has its moments, but it was, it was funny, but it
It is kind of
did.
refreshing. There's
Yes.
not too much like, oh, a twist happens, then you have to rethink the whole book and see everything from a different perspective. It just kind of it is what it is. Like,
Yeah. And like in talking about how you said the sex scenes were too much for me, I was going to ask you like, what did you think about the level of the heat in this book? Because it's definitely portrayed as like this dark romance serial killer novel that's supposed to be super steamy and spicy. So when you finally got to that part in the book, like for me, like I had said, I'm so used to when I read these kind of books, the build up, and while like it had build up, it wasn't that good. It didn't leave me in
yeah.
anticipation. There's so many books that I've read where the anticipation of what's to come gets me so excited, and then when I finally get to the part where they finally do it, like I feel different about it. Like, or I'm like so happy it's happening. Whereas with this, it was kind of like they're really gonna have sex when she is bruised and battered, and they're gonna go all night long, multiple
Hmm.
rounds. Not realistic, but okay, this is a fake book, so I get it. But it was just kind of, I did appreciate the scene of them in the bathroom, and he's giving her a bath, and you could feel like what's coming, and then it just kind of took a turn to a super dark level that it didn't, the transition wasn't nice. It was kind of like unexpected and like a whoa, okay, like we're doing this now, and it's going to be this hardcore this quick. There was no
Hmm.
build up.
I agree. I think it was 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think I didn't like it. Whereas some of the later sex scenes weren't as drawn out or long. So I feel like those would have been better for this
Yeah.
like first night or whatever. There's something about the way that he was so violent in life, like in killing and in just like losing control. And the way that he was that violent in sex, I particularly didn't like that. And I know
Yeah.
that that was on purpose, but to me, it just felt a little too dangerous.
Yeah.
Like
I agree with
just the
that.
way that he could so easily lose control. So it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like, is that where this book is going? Like I was a little nervous about that. I like a little bit of spice. This is definitely too dark of spice for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that some people are into this and much more hardcore.
Listen, I love Haunting Adeline is the darkest, dirtiest book you'll ever read, and I fucking loved it. So
Yeah.
I do like this kind of stuff, and this one just didn't do it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It was, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was like into some parts of it, and then when it would just kind of like dwell on one part for too long or go into too much detail, it would pull me out of it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I get it. And I could see how some people would definitely be into this if they're into, dark spice or whatever. But I also don't think, like you said, there are other books that are much darker than this. I don't think it's as crazy as everyone is making it out to be.
I agree with that. And I was going to say that too, because I also, knowing that this was going to be a serial killer book about romance, serial killers falling in love and then them obviously killing together. Granted, of course, it's well known throughout the book that they're serial killers and they're killing people, but I wanted more of that. Like, the book felt definitely more comedic than romantic, and also it was also like surface level. Like, I wanted more. It left me wanting more in a bad way.
Yeah. And I think that has something to do with what I was saying before, like their banter at the beginning. Rowan's side of it was so good and Sloane's wasn't as good. So it's like, okay, this is all kind of surface level.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the comedic parts where they were in the serial killer part.
Yes.
Like, especially where, like we talked about, like her joking during the killings and even like the orzo pasta thing. Like, that made it very funny. But then the banter back and forth was just kind of not serious enough to have this build up to this huge,
it was
hardcore
lacking
relationship that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Now, the chemistry and the compatibility between Rowan and Sloane, did you, from the get, like, did you root for them? Did you feel it? Like, what were your thoughts on them being together?
It's funny because if I think about the chapters from Rowan's point of view, I was invested in it because he was like so obsessed right off the bat and basically like worshipped her from the beginning. But then when I would kind of see it from Sloane's point of view, I was like, okay, there's definitely the self-sabotage. There's definitely like you said before, they go an entire year without talking. And then like the second year, they're like texting back and forth, but they don't see each other for that whole year. Like, it just seemed very strange if they are as obsessed with each other as they made it out to be.
Yeah.
That they just don't see each other for a year.
100%. And I just didn't really feel the chemistry until they finally like have sex. And then those scenes after, like when she moves to Boston and, she's part of the restaurants now and they're just always together. I definitely felt it there. And then, but the fact that it took me that long to really feel like the chemistry and compatibility between them, because even like when there's that whole scene with them at the gala, I had that feeling of anticipation. I'm like, oh, something good's gonna come and it's really gonna make me root for them, and it didn't. So it was kind of.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
and especially if you're comparing this to other books, like other characters that have so much chemistry with each other, and yeah, you have the Sloane being standoffish and that kind of contributes to it, but the story wasn't backed up by their chemistry together.
Yeah. So anyway, should we get to the rating, or do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I'm ready for the ratings.
All right. So our rating system is cookies and cream ice cream. So how many cookies and cream ice cream are you giving this book? Please and thank you.
I would not like any cookies and cream ice cream. This was a hard one for me. I am giving this 3.5 scoops of semen cookies and cream ice cream. I love the whole idea of it. Like we said at the beginning, going into it, I was like, oh, this seems like it's going to be right up my alley. I liked the humor. I liked the funny parts of it. And I liked the details of their crimes because that's my sick and twisted
It's up your alley for sure.
Exactly. But the dark spice just isn't for me. I thought it was a little too hardcore just for my taste. Obviously, I'm not knocking anybody who's into it. But I think that after you and I talking about it, I think I would have been more into it if the chemistry had been there. Because it was kind of shocking that that was the first time that they were having sex. And it's literally 3 chapters long. They're working every which way, every which hole, every which.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So I think maybe it was just that's why I didn't like it,
Mm-hmm.
that I just wasn't invested enough. And like I said, I also wasn't racing through this. So that definitely tells me something about how I feel about a book. That being said, I definitely would read the second one just because I feel like I'm invested in these characters now.
Yeah, I have a feeling that if the second book is going to go down the route I think it's going to, I think you'll like it more personally, because I think I'm going to like it more.
Yeah.
So I'm putting my my future anticipations on you, and I think that you're because I'm going to like it, you're going to like it, which may not be true.
Okay.
But yeah, but I am, like I said, I'm also invested, definitely, and I definitely want to read the second book.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what did you rate it? How many?
Also did
Ice creams.
3.5 scoops of cookies and cream ice cream, though on Goodreads that rounds up to a 4-star. I definitely loved the idea of going into the book, like we said. The concept sounded really good. While I was kind of nervous about the humor in the beginning of the book, as the author continued to write about it in the book, I got more into it. If that makes any sense. That did not make sense. But anyways, once I actually started getting into the humor. Yeah, at first I was like, oh, I'm not going to like this. And then I did. So I really appreciate her banter that she wrote, especially like we talked about, especially for Rowan. His one-liners were fantastic. And she's very creative. Like, I have to give her that. Like, she's creative. Like, she's dark but funny. And even like her dark scenes weren't terrible, if that makes any sense. Like, they were enjoyable, which also sounds terrible, but it's true.
Yeah.
But like I said,
no, I get that.
You know, I think because, and here's the issue too, is that we read these viral books, and I go into these books with high expectations, and those expectations sometimes aren't met, and that's kind of what happened with this book. And the whole reveal of David stalking them, it was just, I don't know, it just took me out of it. I wish that there was more of a backstory then for David, if that was going to be the case. But I digress. It was still, I enjoyed it though, because I couldn't put it down one night. I was up late reading because I couldn't put it down. It was actually funny because I got through the first 2 chapters of the sex scene, and then I actually put the book down and went to sleep. And my friend was like, "You went to sleep?" Or was it you? I think actually that said that. It was you. That's right.
I think it was me.
Yeah, it was you, because I was talking to Vicky about it too, so I'm confusing the 2 conversations. But yeah, you were like, you went to sleep after just reading 2 chapters? Like, you didn't finish? I was like, no, like, I was tired.
For me, it was like a car wreck. I couldn't look away.
Yeah. So then it was like, then I picked it back up and just like started. But like, there was, so I get in those situations, I have to give the author props because they kept me engaged for a long period of time. So yeah, wasn't terrible, wasn't great.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it definitely had its positives and negatives. And like you said, maybe if this book hadn't gone so viral and hadn't been so talked about and hyped, maybe we would have felt differently, because maybe our expectations would have been different.
Yeah.
But hard to say.
Yeah. So that's that. We have covered
This is also, like, how do you even describe this book to someone? Like, if you're into serial killers, but you also have to be into dark spice, but you also have to be into
cannibalism? Question mark.
Yeah, it's a rough one. Listen, if you're willing to just dive in, come along with us.
Well, listen, I'm proud. We covered a dark romance novel. It was was it this like your first dive into that? Realistically, have you read other ones in the past?
Not
recently. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like, you know, I'm sure we'll do more, but this was the first. And while it might not have been your favorite or my favorite, it was still fun to read and fun to discuss with you, as always. So it's all good. It's all good.
Agree.
Anything else?
I think we covered more than enough.
All right. That's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you are currently listening on. If you have any book recommendations or questions for us, or know what scene I'm talking about in Simply Irresistible so I don't feel like I'm going insane, you can email us at fullybookedcalfpod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at fullybookedcalfpod to see our upcoming reads, Thanks for checking us out, and remember,
If you need us, we're fully booked.
bye.
Bye.